When did you find out about that shirt with an old photo of you and then the Nirvana name on the top?
We found out just like everybody else. We're like, wow, that Nirvana photo looks just like us.
Hi guys, how are you?
Hey, how are you?
We're very good. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks for asking. So how many days have you been in Brazil?
Oh, only a couple.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like this is our third day.
What's most important to us, we've played 2 concerts, and so that's sort of how we judge our time.
Yeah.
It feels good. It's been amazing so far. We have 5 more to do, so that's the most concerts we've ever played on a tour in Brazil.
Yeah.
To do 7 shows, so we feel really thrilled to be here.
Oh, this is
And when
amazing.
we're also in the middle, we've been touring all over the world. So we were just in Mexico, we were in Argentina, and so it's a good way to finish this leg of the tour in Brazil.
Yeah, the fans. I'm sure fans are loving your
Yes,
tour.
we played 2 extra songs in our concert last night because they requested them. The audience was
Yeah.
From the audience.
chanting
The whole
song.
audience, singing, "Save me, save me."
Lose.
It was pretty great.
And what are you doing besides the concerts? I don't know if you are having time.
What should we be
We're doing
doing?
this.
yeah.
I mean, one of the main things you do on tour, obviously, we're here for the concerts. That's our favorite thing to do. But you do get to eat a lot of good food. That's one of the things. So when we're in Brazil, we look forward to good, Brazilian barbecue and meat and capoeiras and enjoying the local fare while you're here.
Yeah, but do you want to explore more the city?
Oh, well.
I mean, if we have any time, we try to. But the truth is, that's actually the hardest thing about touring, is because every day is so full. There's very few opportunities for us to really take a big deep breath. So I mean,
Where should we go?
enjoy it? I mean, I don't know. We'll just have to ask people for recommendations.
This avenue we are here right now have
Yes.
so many options for you. Like so many restaurants, museums
Very
you
good.
will probably like.
Okay, very good.
Perfect. Sounds like we're where we need to be.
So Red, Green, Blue,
Yes.
your album. When did you start to make this album actually?
This was a little over a year ago.
Yeah, the very end, around this time last year. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, of course, the whole world had the pandemic, and so we, at one point, our album that came out last year was going to be released with this tour, but with this coming tour, we wanted to have a brand new, fresh new record to go out as we were traveling, and this was an idea that we talked about for a long time, and it seemed like it was an interesting concept. It's a 3-part album where each of us sort of took 5 songs. And it's the band's 30th anniversary this year. We've been singing for 30 years together. So 3 parts, 30 years, it seemed like a good idea.
Makes sense.
But yeah, we started, it was actually
in October.
Pretty
Right
fast,
before my
actually
birthday.
pretty fast start it to finish and then to release the record in the spring.
Yeah.
So did you start to make the album after the beginning of the pandemic?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. In fact, actually, we
In
made
2021.
2 records. We made 2 records in the last 2 years, or 2.5 years, because we had a record that was supposed to come out in 2020, and that album got delayed until the middle of 2021.
Against the World.
Against the World, yeah, exactly. And that was and we had originally had this really cool concept for it about how we were going to release it and all these kind of things. But of course, a lot of people's plans changed because of how much changed in 2020. So we released that record last year, and then as we continued to figure out how we were going to get it back out on the road, it became clear to us that we needed something fresh and new for this tour. So that's where Red, Green, Blue came from.
And where did you record this album?
It was recorded in a couple places. Mostly,
In California.
when we wanted to make this record, it was important to find a way to also still have that good creative input, right? We knew that, for example, on the blues songs, I was going to be writing and producing that however I wanted.
And singing lead vocals.
Right. But we said, let's pick a production partner that can really add something really cool to the record. So a guy named Jim Scott, who's produced amazing records, great engineer, mixer,
Red
Tom
Hot.
Petty, Red Hot Chili
Peppers.
Peppers,
Sting.
yeah, it's just the list of people he's worked with.
Only
is
legends.
Legends over legends over legends. And then we have a really good friend who's also an amazing artist and producer named David Garza, who we said let's bring David in, and they both brought different things, but one of the things about Jim is he has an amazing studio space in California. So we did it mostly in California. There was a little bit of work done in Oklahoma, but almost all done at a studio called Pliers in outside of Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So these locations kind of like affect your songwriting. Right?
It does, yeah.
It does, yeah.
I mean, places are important. Even though we use computers and have technology, when you step into a room, it changes your feeling. And you know, one of the things that Jim's made records for years. We grew up in an era where you walk into a room and you perform and you play off the floor. We call it, it's like you would in a live performance. And he's come from that same school. So everywhere you look in the studio, it's amazing vintage guitars, keyboards.
Very fun.
Yeah, so it's inspirational. And that was a key part of this record for sure, having that glue and that environment.
And the title came up, one of the reasons was your favorite color since you were a kid.
Yes,
So-
Basically, yeah.
So red, green, blue, in a way, it's sort of like saying Taylor, Isaac, Zach, right? Because those colors have been associated with the three of us for a very long time, since we were little kids. And people who have been big fans of the band have known that for 25 years. But the other thing about red, green, and blue is you can use those three colors to make any color in the rainbow, which is kind of a powerful analogy for what it is to be in the band Hanson, right? Everything we've ever done is these interesting combinations of these colors, and maybe for the first time, we're simply just calling out, hey, here's Isaac and here's Taylor. Like you kind of know it when you hear it in an album like Middle of Nowhere or Underneath or Anthem, right? You know who you're listening to.
But we're
but
always-
in this context, you're just hearing it with this certain kind of clarity that I hope just lets people be bigger fans of Isaac or Taylor or Zach,
Yeah.
And
Because we're always pushing and pulling on each other in certain ways, because you're in the band, and so there's always little things that are changing. But in this case, it was like, well, no. You just do what you want to do, and we'll show up, and hopefully you don't screw it up too bad. Don't screw it up.
That's what we
okay?
said to Isaac. Yeah, don't screw it up.
I think each part of the album brings a new feeling to the listeners and shows a lot of you. Talking about me, while I was listening the Red's part, Taylor's part, I was like crying my heart out with Childhood Horror. I was really emotional. And then I was listening the Green part and kind of like reflecting about all my life with Greener Pastures. And then I was listening the Blue part and dancing all around my room with Bad, like the chorus stayed in my head for days. So for you, what is the biggest quality of each part?
Well, I mean, I think you kind of described it pretty well. I think you described
you
it
just
pretty
speak to
well.
your part?
Yeah, I think I'll probably speak to the green part, and you guys can each maybe comment a little bit. I mean, for me, I think it's appropriate to say that this record is probably the most personal record any of us have made because of the nature of the writing and how it really puts a focus on the narrative that each one of us decided to kind of make out of those 5 songs. Because we could have picked any number of songs, and those were the 5 we chose. For me, I think that the green portion is about heart, and it's about telling stories. It's about I think there's a lot of inside commentary. It's very much about like who the person is that's singing. And I think you feel that. I think there's a lot of very personal things in the record for me, and I like that. That's the way I would prefer to sing songs, is in that way. So you hear it. The challenge for me was actually that I'm used to leaning on these guys as co-writers, and it was an interesting thing to take them out, and then I actually ended up basically writing every song with someone else. There's 2 songs that we wrote with our producer friend David Garza. There's another song, Write You a Song, which I wrote with our very good friend Paul McDonald. And then one of the other songs is a song that our brother Mac, our youngest brother, actually wrote all by himself, and I would just covered that. And one of them we wrote together as well. So anyway.
Yeah, I mean, the feel of the record, I mean, what it means to you versus what it means to other people, I think you described it pretty well. I mean, the emotional side of things, the red portion of the record, I decided to mostly try and go simpler, and also to try and to me, music is about connection. I mean, it's about what, like you suddenly feel like you've reached someone. And so from Child at Heart to Belong Together to Rambling Heart, these songs they're all actually kind of emotional songs. And that to me, different than as a band, a lot of times we're thinking about, okay, how do we pull in what Isaac would do and Zach would do? And I think that way when we make records. Yeah. And so I sort of took the opposite approach and really did kind of make it simpler and make it smaller in some ways. And that brought forward certain songs that are a little more emotional and a little more personal. And you hear that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it was a really hard process, mostly for me, because it was so easy to get to 5 songs, right? Yeah. You could write 10 songs or 20 songs so quickly. It's hard to say what is the message of this moment, right? And I think the main thing for me, when you go from Bad, which is the first song of the Blue, all the way to Where I Belong, there's sort of this arc of someone reflecting on what's happening outside them. Bad is sort of saying, like, the world is trying to shape me, the world is trying to change me, and I don't like living in a world where people are enjoying, sort of making enemies as a pastime. Sort of, I'm different than you and I'm better than you. This is sort of a world that I think we've seen people put their flag in the ground and go, bad people, good people, Yeah. But it comes all the way around to the end of the 5 songs, and it sort of says, I still don't know where I belong, and I'm still sort of yearning for finding people that connect to me, that have my same kind of hopes and dreams and aspirations. And so I think ultimately for me, it was about still capturing that imagination, right? That comes with the ability to create almost anything, and having some sort of, there's a little bit of a story arc to the way you're talking about yourself and the world around you.
Yeah, so you tell stories, like real stories, real emotions in every song. Yeah. Why is this so meaningful for you?
Well, I mean, songwriting, we're all players. We all have performed all our lives, but the idea of crafting songs, really being writers, and I would argue is probably the core thing that connects, that we're most interested in. And again, it's
the core part of our identity as a band and as individuals. I think.
Because it's the thing that you can keep reimagining songs, and you can tell the story.
I think for a lot of people in the spotlight, they do their career, and then at some point they write a book and they say, here's my manifesto, here's what I think, here's what I've been through. But I think as a songwriter, if you do it right, by the end of your career as a musician, you've said all the things people need to know about you. I mean, it's not that you can't write a book. I guess if we want to write a book.
So you're the one to write.
But the songs are a reflection on how you see the world, right? How you experience the world, how you process the world. And I think that's the beautiful gift that it is for other people. Those who maybe because of time or because of talent or whatever it is, like they don't feel capable of saying, I'm going to process all my emotions into a song. So you get to gift that to them. Go, hey, I went through something like you did.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
here's something to help you get through it. And so I think it's what you say, how you say it is that's the whole art form.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think what's so fun about songs and what's so amazing about being a songwriter and being in this band is, and any band for that matter, but certainly personal experience, music is both about the party and having a good time, and it's also very spiritual and it's very personal and all these, and so you can tell a lot of stories in a lot of different ways through that, and it allows for you to process it, but as Zach said, you're gifting it to the world and letting them have a way to express themselves too.
And how did you manage to balance these two sides? Like, you always talked about positivity, but I think we passed through hard times recently.
Yeah, so absolutely.
Well, I mean, everybody.
Well, I think you can hear the hard times.
I think hard times have felt more ubiquitous than ever, but I think we're always going through hard times. It makes me think. So the album Against the World came out in 2021. It was written
in 2019.
1819 is when we wrote it. But it was crazy because when you listen to that album, it's 7 songs long. It felt like it was written for the pandemic. I think for a lot of people, like, wow, this feels like you wrote it about this. And it wasn't. It was written about all kinds of other things. Yeah. But it's weird how these experiences are able to kind of latch on to where you need to be, you know?
And we've always written songs that do tend to look for an answer, but they look for an answer through problems. I mean, even songs like Umbop, are talking about, the first line is, you have so many relationships in this life, only one or two will last. Go through all the pain and strife, you turn your back, they're gone so fast. I mean, that's our first song ever to be released. Well, and it's talking about pain and strife, you know,
in the first
two lines. And so I think that the thing is, you know, leaning in and listening is really what makes becoming, I think, from just being an observer to becoming a fan of something is when you really listen. And I really think the fact that that's who we are.
Yeah.
I think if that's probably why we still have fans that come out 25 years later, I hope. Because when you really open up and you look into the albums, you realize, oh, there's heart here, there's soul here, you know, and that we're all looking for that. We're all kind of want to know that we're not just some, you know, life's not just a big accident. We want to feel some sense of purpose or connection with
breathe. You are no mistake.
Life isn't an accident.
Yeah.
When I'm just sitting here thinking about it, like, as my brain, and I think most of the songs that have been singles off our albums, really, they're processing a negative emotion into something that can kind of become positive or help you move forward. Umbop is that way. Where's the Love is that way. I Will Come to You is that way. Weird is that way. This Time Around is that way. If Only is even really, I wish I could have something I don't know how to do, right? And it goes on and on,
and then
like
Save
that
Me
throughout our career. Save Me is that way. Think About Something is that way. Penny Me is probably one of our few songs that is simply kind of about
life and just
I just kind of want to be with you in places. I'm connected to something more positive.
So maybe we've always just been really sad, melancholy humans.
Hanson is your emo band.
Yeah, I think your songs are very relatable, like, for everyone. So
hopefully
we try, and I think all write songs that have depth. Right? They have a heart. When you listen to them the second time or the third time or the 12th time or the 100th time, there's something you can connect to. But there's also this element of, like, it sounds good, it's enjoyable, it gets stuck in your head. And if you can marry both those things, then people get things stuck in their head that are also good for them, right? I can't get it out of my head, but it keeps telling me, be the best version of myself. This hard moment is just gonna pass in a second, you know? Like,
it's like a delicious smoothie that also has, like, vegetables and stuff in there. You just don't realize it. You're drinking strawberries. No, we got all kinds of vitamins in there.
It always has a message, right?
Yes.
And Zach, now I need to ask, did you ever think about write a book?
Did I ever think about writing a book?
Yeah,
we actually have talked about that a little bit recently, just because when you reach 30 years, it's kind of like, wow, there's a legacy element of like, we've been doing this a long time. We've met a lot of people, gone a lot of places. Maybe there's a Hanson book in the future. I've been thinking about writing books about Vikings recently, so that's a totally different thing.
But you always take risks. Like, you have your own record label, you founded a music festival, like a beer brand. What have you done in your career, like outside of albums and singles, that has challenged you the most so far in life?
Well,
wow,
it's interesting. You mentioned some of the things. So much of having a career is really is that steady climb. I think people get focused on the moments, like even the big and the low moments. But the challenges are kind of that steady movement forward. You know, when everyone else is distracted and running over here, you're moving on to the next project, or you're thinking forward. You're sort of surviving. You know, and then you step back and you're like, wow, we've got a career of 30 years. But we did choose to start a record company after being successful with a major label, and now that's been a long time ago, actually, like almost 20 years ago. And that was a huge moment because it was a chapter. And I think deciding to try and build, our organization is not typical. Like we were an independent band at a time where it wasn't particularly popular yet, and now it's become much more the standard, where you see bands that own their own content and license their music to partners. And so I think that period of building, really these last 15 years, or has been continually trying new things, and we've built community. I mean, you can see a lot of the things that we see that's amazing is we see that fans are connected to each other, and I think that. I wouldn't say that's been the hardest thing for us, but it's been something that's been important.
Well, it's certainly taken the most time and work.
Yeah, and we've tried to foster it in a way. We were inspired by a lot of bands that really understood that early on, like the Grateful Dead, who were famous for being a live band. And even though we're a band that writes pop songs, mostly, we saw that and think, this is amazing. These fans are here for each other. They're not just here for the band; they're here for one another. And so we tried to learn from that and see the fact that that's a powerful. You can be it's like we get to go to a country and then host a party for people to come together. Yeah. So
7 nights of party in Brazil.
Yeah, exactly.
Hanson.
I don't know if we'd survive 7 nights.
Yeah. 4 days.
But I think you are also very smart in your decisions. Like I felt that.
We've tried to be.
We've tried to be.
We can't say yes to that, but if you think so, we're grateful.
We appreciate that.
We've tried hard to make good decisions.
I think what you do see about us is we haven't made choices that were about money or fame. We've made choices that were about longevity, choices that were about kind of
art,
saying, will I be proud of this? Will I be able to live with this? Will I be able to walk on stage and do this over and over and over again? Because really, the job is not this one moment, right? When you write that song, you release that album, or you talk about it for 10, 20, 30 years. Yeah. And so everything you do has a certain weight, right? And so you need to come into it knowing, I'm really proud of everything I do. And let that be the guiding force behind everything that we've created.
And I think we were very lucky in that way. And I think it's particularly as it relates to songs, because I think we, unlike a lot of artists who started out as young as we did, we were able to maintain ownership and kind of authorship because we were the songwriters. Like our biggest hit is a song the three of us wrote. Right. Like nobody else even wrote it with us.
Well, you say that. I mean, every song we've ever released, we've wrote.
Well, yeah. But I mean, but there were
no other collaborators, no other
even
co-writers.
In some cases, like there were some songs that have been collaborations with other songwriters, but the songs that have been at the core of who we are and the core of our connection with our audience has been songs that, it's just been three of us. So it's...
Yeah, this is totally beautiful. Oh my God. And changing totally the topics, but I really want to know, when did you find out about that shirt with an old photo of you and then the Nirvana name on the top?
We found out just like everybody else. We're like, wow, that Nirvana photo looks just like us.
Yeah, we started seeing them online. What I think
about
it's really
5 years ago, I think, is when it started to show up.
It's really interesting because time is so strange. There will be, we've already seen this, where like 20-year-olds, 15-year-olds that just buy a shirt that says Nirvana and has Hanson on it, and they don't know that that's not Nirvana.
That was one of my favorite video clips I've ever seen. Was a girl who was wearing that Nirvana shirt, and our mom was like, "Do you know who that is?"
She goes, "Nirvana."
And she goes, No, but who's in the photo? It was great. It's hilarious. I love it.
I've seen it the other way too. I've seen shirts that have the Nirvana picture that says Hanson underneath.
Yeah.
And the whole idea of, that's one of those things where you go like, time is just strange, and the internet is strange. So.
Yeah, I think it's great though. We looked the way we did partly because of Nirvana, right? Partly because
we were just kids in the 90s.
In the 90s, and we had long hair, and we wore plaid shirts, and we wore baggy pants, and you connected with the culture of your time, and we were a garage band just like they were, but we grew up, in our case, listening to music from the 50s and 60s, which meant the style was more Motown and sort of inspired by Michael Jackson and the Temptations, and this kind of music led us in a totally different direction.
And we were a lot younger than they were when our first record came out.
Yeah, but we're not that much younger than they are.
We hadn't developed any drug habits yet, so our tone was different.
Yeah, exactly.
Guys, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Send a message to defend here in São Paulo.
Okay.
Hey, everybody in Sao Paulo.
Hello.
We are Hanson. Yes. And we're so glad to be here in Brazil.
And we want to say thank you. Thank you for following us. Thank you for coming to the shows, and thanks for having us.